put down that camera and strap in. It's time for a new episode of TogChat Live. Get ready for 60 minutes of wall-to-wall photography, including photo news, tog tips, and image reviews to help you improve your photography. Here's your host, Joe Edelman.
Guys, there we go. You want sound again. Like, this is like 2 shows in a row. You guys are expecting sound from me. Like, what's that all about? So since obviously I've got to put a big Post-it note on my screen to click that extra button, let me just say, hey, thanks for joining me for TogChat episode number 61. So listen, for those of you that can't read lips and need to actually hear the stuff, I've got some really hot photography news tonight. Hot. Some cool photos to review, and I'm going to take your questions and do my best to answer them live during the show. So stay tuned, okay? So for those of you that are in the USA, happy Memorial Day, and for all of our veterans, thank you so much for your service and your sacrifice. But listen, for those of you that are elsewhere around the world, please don't feel left out. I mean, after all, today is the spring bank holiday in the UK. It is Democracy Day in Nigeria. We're talking the 3rd day of Ramadan, and it's the end of the Middle Ages Day, which, by the way, has been celebrated since 1453. And if none of those do it for you guys, today is World Digestive Health Day. So there you go, okay? So listen, it really is awesome to see all of you here. And now that you can hear me, Florian and Matthew and Linda and Mac and Andrew, Robert Bechtel's here, Tim West, Hector. I haven't, Doug Thompson's here, Sean, Arnab, DB Kelly. I have not seen like Troy show up, so somebody better like go knock on his door, wake Troy up, tell him he needs to like get in here. So listen, thank all of you for spending not only a Monday evening with me here on TogChat, but Memorial Day evening. So for those of you in the US, it's great to have you here on the holiday. So before we get going, I need all of you to please take a second, tell your photography friends that we are live streaming on YouTube right now. Twitter, Facebook, they're the fastest way to get the word out. But hey, listen, if you have to call them, text them, do whatever, tell them to go to tog.chat/live so they don't miss out, okay? So this week in photography news, lots of cool stuff happening, but I've got 3 really important headlines for you. Well, kind of 4, but anyway. So I told you in the beginning of the show that I have some really hot photography news. So indeed, it turns out that that brand new Sony A9 is much hotter than we expected. According to our friends over at DIYphotography.net and some other pretty reliable photo news sources, the A9 is overheating after as little as 20 minutes of shooting. Now, to be fair, there have only been a few reports of this so far. Let's face it, there's not that many A9s out there in circulation, but these reports are coming from some pretty well-known sources. Now, the bright side of these reports is they don't claim that the camera shut down. They keep working, but you know, my advice is, given that Sony has had some overheating issues in the past, you might want to wait a little while to shell out that $4,500 until you know that they have worked this out. Now, please, before anybody runs off, I'm not trashing Sony. Sony makes great stuff. It's just a brand new piece of technology that is very expensive. So use some common consumer sense, okay? So some other news in the category of really annoying if you have any overseas travel planned to or from the US in the near future, it's looking more and more like the Department of Homeland Security is going to ban laptops in carry-on luggage pretty much any day now. So prepare accordingly to be able to carry your laptop in your suitcase because you're not going to be able to take it on the plane with you. And some other gear rumors that are floating around. Canon is reportedly set to announce an EOS 6D Mark II. Now this is going to be bigger, not smaller than the 6D, and it's going to have a fold-out articulating screen, which, let's face it, it's going to make it either a high-end blogging camera or it'll let you take pictures the same way some of those famous Sony shooters do, you know, with one hand in their pocket. Hey, and as for Nikon, rumors there too. The rumor is they're going to announce a few new lenses and a compact camera. Typical yawner from Nikon, right? What are you going to do? So, hey, listen, to get more of your photo news fix, be sure to check out DIYphotography.net and bookmark it and visit often. Just not as often as you visit my YouTube channel or my blog, okay? Deal. So, before we get into the photo reviews, gang, if you would like to have your photo reviewed here on TogChat, the easiest way to do that is simply join my Facebook group. The link is in the description below. I'm going to post it here into the chat window for those of you that have never been to my Facebook group or never been a member. Gosh, you know, you really ought to check it out. It is a very different kind of Facebook group. I would definitely encourage you to do that. If you're one of those people that really just can't stand Facebook, you can submit your photo directly, and you can do that at the link that you see here, which is also in the description below, and that is tog.chat/photo review. Okay? All right, gang. So let's dive into our first image of the night here. And this shot comes to us from Gemma in New Brunswick, Canada. All of the specs on this shot are up in the upper left-hand corner here. Since it's white text on a white background, let me just tell you that shutter speed was 1/125th of a second, the aperture was f4, and the ISO was 250. Now this was Gemma's first post in my Facebook group. So this was a friend of hers that she was shooting, Mark Emmelman Photography. The Angry Photographer actually mentioned my channel in one of his videos as one of the most valuable photo streams teaching people. Dang. Like, seriously, that's cool all the way around. He doesn't compliment many people, so I'm thrilled for that. Thank you for that little piece of advice, Mark. I'll have to go look that up. So, sorry, gang. Back to that just totally flummoxed me. Here we go. Back to Gemma's image, gang. So she was shooting her friend in the afternoon. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a late fall day last November. Gemma wanted a photo of the girl with her new hat that was both happy and fun. She placed the girl under a tree in the shade so that she had nice, soft light. She shot from a lower angle to be sure to have all the model's face and eyes with no shadows. Her post-production she did in Lightroom and Photoshop. Basically just to work with the light on her face, white balance it, and then a little tiny bit of retouching. So Gemma tells us what she loves about the shot is the girl has, of course, beautiful eyes. She's very happy with the tight crop that she did. She took around 200 shots to get this frame, which I love hearing that. Now, I want to be clear now that I said that. I am not encouraging people to get out there and just spray and pray and shoot tons and tons of frames, but I am encouraging people to really work the shot. And it sounds like that's what Gemma did here. So what she should have done in her evaluation is make the girl smile a little bit more and use a reflector for more highlight in her eyes. And I don't disagree with that, Gemma. So first of all, I want to say, number one, Jenna, welcome to the group. Thank you for your first post. It is definitely great to see it here. And I see Gemma's tuned in tonight to watch, so that's awesome. I'm glad that she's going to get to see this firsthand. So I absolutely do love the picture in the sense that your subject is beautiful. I think overall you've done a great job. So what I'm going to do here, Gemma, is I'm going to try and kind of pick out some things that I think will help you take this shot to the next level. which is the long way of saying I'm going to go ahead and be really picky. So with regards to composition, I think there's absolutely nothing that I would encourage you or recommend that you change. I think you've done a great job here. If you want to up your game a little bit here, we could suggest dealing with the flyaways, but as much as people know I hate flyaways and messy hair, they literally do not bother me in this shot. And that's, again, because it's outdoors, it's very casual, so we expect a little bit of that. What I would like to see you do, Gemma, especially if you have the opportunity to work with a makeup artist in the future, or if not, purchase one yourself if you don't already have one and just carry it with you in your bag. Get a little eyelash brush. The fact that her eyelashes are crossed and a little bit clumped, I really, really wish that they were straightened out. This girl has gorgeous eyelashes. So if they weren't as crisscrossed and straighter, they would really make a big, big impact in that sense, okay? So as far as her smile goes, I would say that that's definitely kind of a matter of preference. Certainly remember that you had the actual interaction with this young lady, so of course you've got a little bit more of an emotional attachment to the shot. I love the expression. Indeed, a little bit more of a smile certainly wouldn't hurt. And I will be honest, if you're using Photoshop, Face Aware Liquify, you would be able to give her just that subtle hint of a smile, really super, super easy. So if that's something that you're thinking you really want, I would actually encourage you, if you've never tried the Face Aware Liquify before, go and try it. You'll be pretty impressed by what it does. The warning is, be careful. It's very easy to get carried away with it. So use it in moderation. That being said, and again, I'm still being super nitpicky here, I would encourage you, watch things like this with the outfits where these straps are twisted. Fortunately, it's all black, so it's not like we're seeing, that there's a lot of twisting or anything like that. But the fact is, we can tell that those are twisted. Small distraction, again, really, really nitpicky. My hunch is, Gemma, that some people would say they would love to see more saturation in background colors, more detail. I would disagree. I love the fact that the colors in the back are kind of flat, that the girl really dominates the color scheme of the shot here. I think that that's very well done. My last suggestion to you, Gemma, and this is strictly a matter of preference. I think that you could back off just a little bit with the amount of processing that you're doing on the young lady's skin. Certainly remove blemishes, things like that. I would love to see just a little bit more detail in her skin. She's beautiful, she's young. I'm not a big fan, especially since we're in an outdoor setting where things are supposed to be a little bit more natural. I'm not a big fan of the frequency separation look where everything is just perfectly smooth. I'd love to see you back off of that just ever so slightly. And I think you're going to take this image to a whole new level if you play around with that a little bit. Okay, but seriously, great work. It's great to have you in the group, and looking forward to more of your images. So listen, gang, if you have questions, let me go ahead and post this in the chat window for those of you that are here live. If you have questions, I will be doing a Q&A session as part of this TogChat. So I have just put the link in the chat window for you. It's tog.chat/question. Really easy, right? So make sure that you go ahead and type your question in, and I will do my best to get an answer for you. If you have a question that you really want answered tonight, click that little $sign down in the bottom left-hand corner of your chat window, and a donation of as little as $1 will ensure that I will answer your question via Super Chat tonight, okay? All right, so next up here, let's move to our next image. And our next image comes to us from Chris Fleck. Chris is in Jenison, Michigan, and all your specs are there. You can read all of them, so I'm not going to review that. Chris was really excited when he posted this shot. This was a shot that he had wanted to do for a long time. The model is a good friend of his and was willing to subject herself to the 45-degree water temperature in the pool. According to Chris, it turned out that the pool's heater was broken, so he had to work pretty quick once the girl was in the water, because obviously that could have gone south. His goal was to not only try shots with the subject in the water, but also to get a shot that showed the model looking very confident and really to show off her eyes. So the pool had one of those infinity edges on one side of it, so that allowed him to get very low and shoot across the top of the water. Now, he explains he tried a few shots and he wasn't getting the desired look, so he raised himself up so that he's shooting about 6 inches to 12 inches off the water. That way he's able to get some of the surface reflections that you see in the bottom of the frame. So for lighting, he had a Nikon SB600 in an inexpensive ProMaster Easy Fold 24-inch by 24-inch softbox. And he had that placed about 30 to 45 degrees on camera left, and it was raised about 3 feet above where the model is. And we can see, the resulting shadow and that here, all of which is fine. So he used full power on the flash because he was trying to kind of overpower the sun a little bit. He did the shot at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We can see that the light from the sun is coming in here from camera right, so it's obviously mostly behind the model. She was about 6 feet away from the lens, and also, as we can see, she had been underwater, so that, essentially everything was wet. In post-production, Chris tells us that he did most of his work in Lightroom Creative Cloud. He started with a filter preset from Trey Radcliffe and then made some adjustments from there. He did some minor spot removal as well as slightly enhancing the saturation and the clarity of the eyes, and then finally cropped the image and straightened it to accentuate the overall effect. So overall, Chris tells me he's happy with the outcome. However, that being said, there are a few things that he would have changed. The focus of the shot was a little bit off. He shoots everything in full manual, so he thinks that he may have bumped his diopter slightly. He wears glasses and then he lifts them to shoot, so indeed that could have happened. Also, he wishes that he would have gone with a professional makeup artist. The model brought a friend along to do her makeup, and for most of the shoot it was fine, but once she got in the water, the makeup artist didn't use waterproof mascara and lipstick, and so everything started to come off, and so the makeup was, kind of really fading. Also, it made the lashes clumpy, which indeed is a problem. So, and that, of course, is one of the best reasons, Chris, and everybody else listening, why you would want to go ahead and hire a makeup artist, work with a makeup artist, so that you've got somebody that's really going to pay attention to that detail. And certainly a professional makeup artist or someone who has really developed their skills, they are going to make it a point to arrive at a shoot with waterproof makeup, especially if they know they're shooting in and around the pool. That being said, Chris, if you didn't make it clear to the makeup artist in advance that she was going to get in the pool, the model was going to get in the pool, well then obviously you learn the lesson. Make sure that you communicate that to others, in the future. So all in all, Chris, I really love your shot, and honestly, most importantly, I love your excitement, your problem solving, and the energy behind the way you described this shot. This is an example of someone that had an idea, went out, executed the idea, had to solve some problems, and has been able to come away and learn things from it. And that's what we all need to be doing, okay? So I do think that you've got some room for improvement here, Chris, and actually most of it is in post-production. So let me deal first with the unpopular topic, and then I'll get into my recommendations for post-production. This is a shot, especially since we're seeing just face. I would put this into the beauty category. It's not really kind of a glamour type, bikini babe picture, because obviously we have no idea. For all we know, this woman's wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt underneath the water. So this really, it's kind of a beauty shot. That being said, while your friend is very attractive, she's missing a key element that you will routinely find in beauty shots. So don't shoot me. I'm just the messenger, and I'm pointing things out to you that don't take my word for it. Look around and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And that is, she's pretty much got no upper lip. She has a very small mouth. So if you look at her mouth in relationship to the total size of her face, she has a small mouth. That's not uncommon. And I'm not saying that's not beautiful or anything like that. But I will tell you this. The next time any of you walk into a department store and walk past that makeup counter, Look at the photographs of the women in the makeup ads. Those are the beauty shots. Or the next time you pick up a fashion magazine or any kind of magazine and you look at the ads for makeup and hair products, etc., look at the women's faces and look at their lips. They all have nice, full lips. This is something that is also a common thread amongst movie actresses, etc. Okay? So, that does not make this young woman not attractive, but indeed, when you are just isolating the face, the makeup and the facial features become so much more important. So, in a perfect world, Chris, she also doesn't have great eyebrows. Her eyebrows are kind of really spotty. It looks like they've been overplucked at some point. Makeup artists can work with that. Makeup artists can fill that in a little bit. It's a little tougher when you're going to get it wet, but it can be done. Honestly, I have to say to you, my advice would be, if this concept is that important to you, find a subject that's got fuller lips and it's going to be a stronger image. In terms of the way that you dealt with the sunlight and balancing it, shooting at 1/1000th of a second, presumably doing high-speed sync here, all that's great. I think you did a wonderful job there. My only real beef with your image here, Chris, because again, I'm going to go back to what I said. I'm sorry for repeating. I love the excitement and the energy that you put into this image. I really wish you wouldn't have used the Trey Ratcliffe preset. And here's why. If we're being honest, this is a kind of picture that's been done many, many, many times before. That doesn't make it bad. That doesn't make the picture any less outstanding or your efforts any less great. But at the same time, putting a preset on it isn't really giving it that dramatic of a different flavor that it really brings something to it. And here's where the preset fails, Chris. So maybe it's just a matter of, if you correct this, what I'm about to comment on, then the preset won't bother anybody. But that preset clearly had some green and blue in it. And if we look at what should be the whites of her eyes, the whites of her eyes have green and blue and cyan all mixed in, which makes it look like maybe she's been in the pool too long. So I would encourage you, at a minimum, go back into Photoshop and do a hue and saturation correction layer and clean up the whites of her eyes. You still want to leave some color in there. In fact, if anything, in the corners of the eyes, there should be a little bit of magenta, some pink in there, but not the green and the blue. That's really the biggest issue. I would almost, and again, this would be, so let me switch gears now. This is the, in my opinion, piece, Chris. I would encourage you, just use the preset on the background and the foreground, but completely mask her out of that preset. And just work for kind of a nice warm skin tone. Get some good oranges into the skin, and I think you'll have an awesome shot. And even if you do a little bit of dodging and burning work, and this could be a great opportunity for you to practice on, she's got some great water drops on her forehead, above the brow, but they don't stand out really well because you left things a little bit on the light side. So if you do a little bit of dodging and burning in here, there's a little skin blemish there I would take out. There's a few skin blemishes there that I think you could definitely get rid of. Some people will argue about the little highlight on the nose. Honestly, because of the water, that does not bother me at all. But I would tidy up those blemishes, do a little bit of dodging and burning so you really get those water drops to pop. But take that green and blue off of her face, and I think you've got a really, really awesome image if you do that, Chris. Okay? All right, so next up, let me switch over here real quick. And let me just remind you guys really quick, if you're still here, you're still watching, please do me a favor. Make sure you're following me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Those are the places where I'm most active. And if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to the channel. The link is right below the video there. And of course, thumbs up is always greatly appreciated. I mean, come on, where else on YouTube do you get to watch a video that helps you learn how to do lip reading at the beginning of every video? I mean, really? Come on. So hit a thumbs up there. And of course, comment. All right. Comments are greatly appreciated. Remember, everything that's in the chat window, that goes away when the video is over. So please do leave a comment below the video because that stuff helps people find the videos, okay? All right, so next up here, I have got a shot from Nandor in Lenham in the UK. All your stats are up at the top there. In fact, we've got two shots that have a little bit of a theme here. So we're gonna hit these two kind of fairly quick. So this shot is a friend of his, and they're both into photography. So he lit this using a shoot-through umbrella with some speedlights. Cool, simple. You guys have heard me talk about that in my videos many, many times. But here's what I love about what Nandor did. So to read the rest of his information, he set up a mini studio in the backyard using a shoot-through umbrella on camera left. It was about 2 feet from the subject, and a bare speed light on camera right behind the subject for a bit of separation from the background. We can see that over here, okay? He also used a flashlight on a stand so that he could focus, meaning they did this after sunset in the dark. And Nandor goes on to explain that he basically got rid of the background using the inverse square law, which he thanked me for teaching him about. But the point is, solved problems. He's not in a studio here. He is basically working outside where there's all kind of junk behind the subject. But because of the inverse square law, placing his light close to the subject, none of that is recorded, okay? So in post, he removed the blemishes. He did a little bit of skin smoothing here and there. He used some frequency separation, a bit of dodge and burn and sharpening. And that's pretty much it. That's kind of a lot. So overall, he's happy with the shot, although there are a couple things he would change if he were to do it again. So his list is, number one, he would set up a stronger continuous light just to bring the pupils down. So if you look close, you can see that this one, and you really only see it in the one eye, but you can see this young man's pupil is fairly big. Nandor, I will tell you that pretty much photographers are the only people that ever notice that stuff. You have to be careful about setting up another light just to kind of shrink those pupils, because you've got your subject outside in the dark, and then you're going to put a really intense bright light source in their face to get the pupils to shut down. So, you know, there's a balance point. There's a point where you're going to cross over the line where you're putting so much light in their face that you're really going to make it difficult for them to see and be comfortable. So be really, really careful about that idea, okay? Number two, he would like to raise the kicker light a little bit so that he lights or hits a little bit more of the hair. And specifically what he meant is like elevate it so that he's getting a little bit more to the top of the hair. He also said he would like to darken the neck area a little bit and the shirt down in here. And he questions the crop a little bit. He notes that he likes cutting off the top of people's heads. So Nandor, I think all of your evaluations are good and fair. I love your kicker light where it's at. Certainly, I think it would have been okay if you did one or both of two things. One, either moved it slightly more towards the camera, which is going to put a little bit more detail in here, but you don't want to light up the whole side of the young man's head. And or two, lift it a little bit higher so you're getting a little bit more light on top. But that brings us to your fourth point about the crop. I like the crop. I like the use of the negative space. I will admit I'd like to see him slightly off center. And I don't mean to the point of going to a full rule of thirds, but I would like to see him just a little bit, off to the side, okay? So, and as far as the neck and the shirt, honestly, doesn't really bother me that much at all. They're not brighter than his face, so I don't really see any kind of a problem with that at all as far as what you've got there. Okay, all right. So that being said, I told you I have another shot that's a similar theme. So let's move on to that. So this one comes to us from Ethan. All the stats are up there at the top. Now, this was a self-portrait that Ethan did, and really he's doing it for the purpose of getting somewhat comfortable in front of the camera. So for those of you that aren't members of my Facebook group, Ethan's a member of my Facebook group, and I routinely give him a hard time because he doesn't have a profile photo set. And I push all of the photographers in the Facebook group to really up their game by doing self-portraits and having good profile pictures. For those of you that are photographers, if you don't have a good profile picture, shame on you. Like, seriously, how can you call yourself a photographer without a good profile picture? Especially, most importantly, if you are hoping to make money as a photographer. You should be embarrassed if you don't have one. So Ethan lit this with a large softbox. It was placed next to him on camera right, obviously aimed straight at his face. In Camera Raw, some real simple processing. He dropped down the shadows to darken them, increased the highlights a little bit, bumped the clarity to a +6, just to give it a little bit of a gritty feeling. That's what the clarity is going to do. Next time, really the only beat that he has is he would try to minimize that little crease that's kind of running down his forehead, which, I don't know, actually I kind of like it. I think it's kind of cool because obviously you caught that light just right. And then he admits he would try to go ahead and light more of himself, or even better yet, maybe turn more towards the camera. I love the drama in this shot, Ethan. So, I mean, I think both of you guys did a great job with one light, one modifier. In Nandor's case, going for kind of a Rembrandt lighting type look. In Ethan's case, it's really like, it's kind of a rimmed profile, but really awesome, really strong. Ethan, just because I'm a little bit OCD with some details, I will be honest with you, I would remove that one piece of hair that's kind of dropped down there. It catches my attention, and that bothers me because I love your shot. I just love the way the whole thing's put together. So I would love to see you just take that piece out. I think that really ups the game there. So Ethan, for the record, I'm looking forward to seeing a close-up of this. So we want this, cropped down nice and tight, show up as your profile picture just until you better it by doing a shot where you're looking more towards the camera. So I hope to see that soon when you post in the Facebook group, okay? All right, so I've got one more shot for you guys to look at, and then we're going to get into the Q&A. So listen here, really quick, gang. Let me go ahead and type this back into the chat window. If you have not posted a question, what the heck are you waiting for? Post a question. I will answer questions as soon as we get done looking at this shot here. So this one comes to us from Alice in Shrewsbury, UK. So this is another shot from the UK tonight. All of the camera stats are there in the upper left, so you can take a look at those. Alice is a 24-year-old photographer from the UK, and for those of you that aren't members of my group, you know that I always go out of my way to try and help the younger photographers. So it was very important to me to be able to talk about her image tonight. She's only been taking portraits for about 5 months, and I will tell you that from the group, I clicked on the link to Alice's Facebook page, and she's really got a great eye. So prior to this shoot, she had only taken photos, or portraits I should say, in outdoor locations. So her goal with this one was to try out a new reflector that she just bought and a backdrop that she hand painted herself. Yeah, she made the background. So she's planning on investing in artificial lighting, but for now she wants to keep practicing with natural light first. So there's a window on camera left and a reflector on camera right. Doesn't get any simpler than that. She did her editing in Lightroom and Photoshop. This was her first time using frequency separation, and the goal was to achieve a very feminine, delicate portrait with a very cohesive color palette. She wanted to pay close attention to makeup, clothing, details, and accessories. So all those little things that you guys hear me talk about that really make a big difference in the final outcome of a shot. So she put a lot of effort into communicating her idea for the shot with the model, who also happens to be a friend. And she really feels that this made a big difference in accomplishing the goal with the shot. So if she was going to do it again in her evaluation, there's a few things she would do. Number one, she'd buy a stand for the reflector so that she could bounce the light down onto the subject instead of upwards, so that she could create more flattering light. So she has watched my video about the right way to use reflectors, but she had no way to be able to mount this reflector. Also, she would pay closer attention to the shadows that were cast on the face by the subject's hair. And you can see what she's talking about here. Since your brighter window light is on camera left, you've got shadows that are coming in on the face that basically are because the hair is forward. If the hair was pushed back a little bit more, that disappears, okay? So, Alice, I think that you did a great job here, and you also did a great job in your very good evaluation of what you've done here. So for starters, having the reflector down, you kind of get that odd catch light that's on the low side of the eye. So indeed, by getting a stand, being able to raise that, you're going to get the catch light in a much more natural kind of position. So it's going to look a little bit more natural there. Be very, very careful. I don't think that you went overboard, but since you are just getting started with doing portraits and such, be really, really careful about what you're doing with frequency separation. Overall, her skin looks good, but I will tell you, one of the things that frequency separation will help you with is to really get your colors blended and get your skin tones down, to the point where they're really good. You've got a little bit of grays coming into some of the shadow areas here, and things are getting really orange on the cheek. And indeed, it's shadow. It clearly is not makeup or blush, because we can see where she's got it here. So just be careful. Honestly, what I would say, Alice, is I would say be careful about getting ahead of yourself. You're working with nice, simple scenarios, and I would encourage you, keep it simple for quite a while. Really, really focus on your ideas, the elements you're putting in the shots, your connection to your subjects, all of which is very evident here. Another thing that I would encourage you to do is play around a little bit with where you choose to do your crops. I'm guessing, because I don't know from the shot, but I'm guessing that this young woman is maybe a little bit buxom. So that being said, with the crop that we have here, it actually makes her look a little bit broad at the base. I saw in the Facebook group, somebody actually made the suggestion of making sure there's separation from the hand and the body to thin her. No, I completely disagree with that at this camera angle. That is a concept, especially if you're working with somebody straight on, where if you have space, it can be very, very helpful to maintain a person's shape. That's not going to help you here. Literally, all you really need to do here is just come up a little bit tighter on the crop, and you resolve that problem. So I'm being really, really nitpicky here. And then one last thing, you mentioned about the idea of using the reflector and being able to balance the window light. Here's a simple thought to stick in the back of your head when it comes to lighting. Whatever your key light is, or your main light, whichever phrase you want to use, cheat your subject's face towards the key light. Now, this is not a 100% of the time, this is how you have to do it. So please, you don't have to type in, folks, and tell me, oh, but I like it when the face is in the shadows. No. There's always exceptions. But for somebody that's starting out, learning to do portraits, and wants to be able to master lighting and get a foundation under them so that they can build, my advice to you, Alice, is that what you should have done is had this young lady turning her face a little bit further so that her face is actually coming towards the window. Now, you could have cheated her pose a little bit to bring her face towards the window, as opposed to actually having her face going away from the window. So you've got key light on one side and the face is going in the opposite direction. So technically you're putting the face in shadow and you're using the reflector to light the face. I would have flipped that. Have the face aimed towards the key light, use the reflector to fill the shadows. If you do that, that's kind of like a lighting 101 thing. It's really basic, really simple. And it's going to help give you a quicker, simpler start when you're building portrait lighting. That doesn't mean that you always have to have the face aimed towards the key light or the main light, but it's a great and very safe starting point. So I really do kind of encourage you to consider that, you kind of start out that way. I think it will really help you while you're in the learning phases. Okay? All right, gang. So those are our 5 photos for tonight. Just a quick reminder. If you want to have your photo reviewed on TogChat, you can submit it at tog.chat/photo review, or better yet, if you really want to learn, join my Facebook group. The link is in the description below. We would love to have you in the Facebook group, and I promise you, I'm not kidding, I'm not exaggerating. It is a very different kind of Facebook group. This is not your typical everyday Facebook group that you find on Facebook, okay? All right, so I do have some questions here. So one more time, let me post this question or this link in the chat window here for those of you guys that are hanging out. I know that there are more questions, so let's get them flowing here, guys. But I've got a question here from Linda. Linda asks, I take photos of people and pets. Should I have 2 websites for this or just different categories? So, Linda, if you have been to any of the marketing talk chats that I used to do here, I frequently talk about the idea of sometimes needing to separate different categories. So I would say that the idea of people and pets is actually one of the exceptions to the rule. And that's simply because, hey, let's face it, people love pets. and people do, portraits and all that kind of stuff. So I think you can combine those two together very, very easily. Certainly keep them in separate categories. In other words, you don't want to have like one gallery and it's half pets, half people, but I don't think that would be a problem at all. And part of the reason why I'm giving you that advice, Linda, is that if you are being a good entrepreneurial photographer, part of what you are going to do is you are going to go ahead and you are going to make sure that you are encouraging the people that own the pets to also get in the pictures with the pets, or the people that you're shooting portraits of to also include their pets in their portraits. So I would encourage you to go ahead and deal with that. Okay, now, gang, I will apologize here, but we're gonna do a little bit of business here, okay? And so any of you that really intend to be in my chat room, do yourselves a favor and don't answer the crap that's going on here, because I'm just gonna get rid of everybody. Morgan, I know you're here, at least you're supposed to be here. So would you do me a favor and jump on this stuff, Morgan? And in fact, any of these people that have comments about flat Earth and that kind of stuff, don't remove it, block them. Just get rid of them, okay? We don't need them here, okay? So Morgan, I'm hoping you can take care of that for me. Oh, and there we go. So look at this here. Gang, bear with me 1 second. We're just going to shut that off because we can. I apologize that you were all having to deal with that stuff. Okay. And our chat room is being spammed as we speak. So we'll go ahead and we'll turn it off. Okay. So that's that should solve the problems, gang. So I apologize for those of you that are interested in learning about photography, but I will go back and make sure that all of those usernames are blocked for future ones. So I have questions here. So Linda, hopefully that helps you out. Arnab, could you do a series on outdoor flash photographies using hypersync or high-speed sync? Probably not, Arnab. And that's not to say I'll never do it, but remember, guys, like, you want to be following photographers that are going to teach you what they know and know intimately. So you have heard me talk many, many times, if you watch my videos, that I don't do that stuff. I don't find a need for high-speed sync. I've never had a need for high-speed sync. I've been doing the kind of images that people do with high-speed sync since the 1980s. So I don't need those features. Is it possible that I will do it in the future, really to show people kind of the alternative to both? Yes. Is it possible that I will do it because of maybe an equipment sponsorship or something that's coming up? Yes. But is it something that I routinely do and encourage people? No. And the simple reason is this. 80% of the people I find, 80% of the people that ask me about high-speed sync should not be using high-speed sync. They're using it because some YouTuber said it's the coolest thing ever, not because they actually have a need for it. And more importantly, not because they actually know how to use it. So it's one of those things, I won't encourage it unless I can do it in a very constructive way, okay? So John is asking here, does anyone have first-hand experience with Adorama's Orlit Rove Light 610 that's fully integrated with Canon's radio trigger system? So yeah, sorry, John. Short answer there is I do not have any experience with that since I'm not a Canon guy. Can't help you. So Arnab's got another question, and guys, if you have more questions, by all means, go ahead and get them loaded into the chat room. Okay. So Arnab has another question. Do you think that beginner portrait studio photographers should learn a bit of makeup work, seeing as how at such stages one may not have the means to work with a proper makeup artist? Arnab, I'm a big fan of the idea of jack of all trades and master of none. And I find it more beneficial to stick with a person's core competency. So meaning that being said, if you're going to be a photographer, be a photographer. I don't think that there's a whole lot of value to you learning makeup. Now, in all fairness, some women photographers have a little bit of an advantage because obviously they do makeup on themselves, so they understand it a little bit. So certainly for them, it's a little bit easier to pick up makeup brushes and that because they've already got some experience. I don't mean that to be a sexist thing, gang. I'm just saying, you know, they already have some experience with that. So that being said, you know, as a guy, would I go ahead and take the time to learn? No. I will tell you this, Arnab, it's really not that hard to find a makeup artist. So depending on where you're at in the world, you can use websites like Model Mayhem in the United States or even in Australia and Canada. You could use, in Europe, I understand the website Purple Port is very, very popular. Facebook, Instagram. There are tons of people that are on these social media websites and that are basically advertising, hey, I want to be a makeup artist, etc. So all of that being said, you reach out to these people and there are plenty of them that are just starting out, just like you are. So all you've got to do is basically introduce yourself, say that, hey, I would really like to, you know, go ahead and collaborate with you and do some things. And some are going to turn you down. Some are going to say, hey, sure, that would be great. But there are 2 videos on my channel here. And let me go ahead and switch the screen over and I'll find these for you, Arnab. I'm going to do a quick search for makeup and we should find both of them. 7 tips for working with a makeup artist and 6 reasons why you should work with a makeup artist. Arnab, make sure that you watch both of those videos. They'll give you some background into kind of how the relationship between a photographer and a makeup artist should go and also how it should develop. So I would encourage you, watch those. I think they'll help you feel a little bit more confident when you're reaching out to people to try and build those relationships. But believe me, don't be afraid to go ahead and start talking to you know, new and young makeup artists to see if they are willing to collaborate with you. You should have no problem with that, okay? All right. So Troy's asking me, did I have a good time in Boston? We really missed you. We need our Patreon fix. So actually, Troy, yes, I had a very good time in Boston. For those of you that aren't members of Patreon, actually, it's worth mentioning this, and I'll show you the URL in a second. I did do a shoot this past Friday. So for those of you that may not know why I was in Boston, my wife, who is a PhD in psychology, she was, every Memorial Day weekend, she attends a psychology conference for cognitive psychology research. I tag along, I'm the driver, chaperone, carry the luggage, you know, all that good stuff. So depending on where we're going, especially when we're driving, I will usually go ahead, load up the car with gear, and I'll try and put a shoot together at the last minute. And now, of course, that I'm doing YouTube, I will try and put together something that I can do some teaching on YouTube. So in this case, this past week, unfortunately, I didn't get to do anything about this until like Wednesday, and I left, or excuse me, Tuesday, and I left on Thursday. So on Tuesday, I posted a casting notice on Model Mayhem, said, hey, I'm going to be in town for one day. My open day was Friday. That was the day my wife was going to be presenting all day. So, you know, I said, I'm looking for a model, looking for a makeup artist. I've got no budget. It's a TFP shoot, which means time for print, which is basically a trade because I'm not giving them prints. I'm going to give them digital files. And, you know, also for a YouTube video. So got a couple responses, wound up working with a young lady who turned out to be absolutely awesome. Not the kind of model you are used to seeing me work with. This was a young lady who has loads of tattoos, quite a few piercings, which she actually was able to remove most of the piercings, so that wasn't as big a deal. But what I did is I did a shoot for about 4 hours that was geared towards doing a quick video on shooting in a hotel room, one doing portraits. So it's simple portraits by window light. And then another one is doing hotel room boudoir, which is something that a lot of photographers wind up trying to do. And of course, it's a roll of the dice because on my way to Boston, I have no idea what the room is going to look like. So on check-in, and my wife had made the reservations for the room, and it's not like we can get like a big suite. The school's paying for the room. So our reservation was for a room with 2 double beds. On check-in, we asked the receptionist if we could get a room with a king-size bed, because I figured the bigger bed would be better for shooting. And also, if it was possible, get a room with a north-facing window. So for those of you that don't know why a north-facing window never gets direct sunlight aiming straight in the window. So basically all day long from sunrise to sunset, you have really just nice soft light coming in the window. So the woman behind the desk was like, sure, I can help you out with that. It's only an extra $100 a night. It's like, okay, so we'll pass on that. What can I get for the reservation that we made? So we were able to get the north-facing window. Sure enough, get to the room. The room it's for the hotel that we were in, who shall not be named. It was a surprisingly small room. It had 2 double beds in it. Really, really ugly colors. The room was like this beige and green color. Really horribly ugly artwork on the wall. The only redeeming factor was it had a literally wall-to-wall window at one end of the room. So for my patrons on Patreon, and I'll show you the link here for Patreon, I will be posting a series of videos throughout this week. Number one, what I've done is I've taken my patrons through all 2,153 frames and basically dissected the shoot. Why I did the things that I did, what the order was, what the steps were, why I made the decisions, pretty much every element of it, talking about what went wrong, how I solved the problems, etc. Then I am doing a second video for the patrons, taking them through the editing process so they can see how I'm going to narrow it down and select the images that I will be using for the finished videos, and also providing the young lady who was the model and her friend who did makeup for the shoot. And it was kind of your classic model mayhem shoot in the sense that the young lady who did the makeup, she did a really, really nice job on the makeup, but she's not a hairstylist. So we did not have a hairstylist available. So obviously my challenge was in setting the shoot up and executing the shoot is doing things that are going to look okay when I don't have somebody to do really cool hair, etc. So it actually turned out to be a really great day of kind of, problem solving and really a good opportunity to walk people through it. So I will be turning the end results into a couple short videos for YouTube, but for the patrons, they get to kind of see the entire thing behind the scenes, even videos of me actually shooting so they can hear and see my interaction with the model. You can support what I'm doing on Patreon for as little as $1 per month. It's not expensive. Certainly, if you can afford a little bit more than that, it's greatly appreciated. But your support on Patreon also gives you access to our Friday Zoom chats. Every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we use the Zoom rooms so that everybody can log in with their webcam and their computer's microphone, and we all do video chat. We have the opportunity to talk and discuss things and learn. Some weeks we do some Photoshop stuff. Other weeks we solve lighting problems. So I would encourage you at least check it out. The link's in the description below, okay? So next up, let's see. Matthew has a question. I seem to be getting some really ugly gray in the more subtle highlights when doing low-key photography. Any advice to avoid this or get rid of it in Photoshop? Gosh, Matthew. So I got to be honest. Based on that description, I'm not sure that I have any advice in terms of avoiding it, because it would help if I could actually see what you're talking about. So what I would suggest, Matthew, is in the Facebook group, because I know you remember my Facebook group, please post one of your images kind of unprocessed so that we can see what you're talking about. And make sure give us all the normal requirements so we know what your lighting was, etc. Depending on the extreme that you're dealing with, it could be a matter of your color balance is off. It could be a matter of you're actually lighting a little bit too flat. In other words, you want to add more shadow into your lighting arrangement so that you get kind of a crisper shadow, which will avoid the gray. And depending on how bad it is, it could be something that you could easily fix in Photoshop. Might be a simple color adjustment, might be something that you might want to do with frequency separation. So unfortunately, with your description, it's a little broad. It could be a bunch of different things. If you'll post an image for us as a reference so that we can take a look at it, I'll definitely make sure that we get you some feedback in there, okay? So Roderick has a question. It's a follow-up about makeup artists. Would you recommend local cosmetology schools as a place to find someone? Roderick, you're going to get me in trouble. Here we go. So honestly, I I would not recommend a cosmetology school unless you know what you're getting into. So the upside is I do talk about this to some degree in these two videos that I mentioned before. The one about what to know about working with a makeup artist and the other one about you need a makeup artist for great portraits. I personally am not a fan of makeup school makeup artists. And here's why. School in general, even photography schools, they tend to be creativity killers. You're taught there's a right and a wrong. You go for the A or you get the F. In a makeup school, you're taught step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, etc. This is how you put makeup on a face. But here's the problem. Every face is different. Every face is unique. So you can't just mandatorily do every face the same way. And indeed, in my experience, if I take an artist who is fresh out of school especially, and I give them 10 faces to work on, I'm going to be able to tell when they're done who did the makeup, because I'm going to be able to see a certain style of makeup put on these 10 faces. Whereas if I find a self-trained makeup artist, and understand, when you say self-trained, that means this person has to have worked their butt off and be extremely detailed and really give a damn about their work. But when I take a self-taught makeup artist and give them 10 faces to work on, I'm going to see 10 beautiful faces. And if I watch that makeup artist do one person and then the next and then the next, I'm not going to be able to see a step 1, step 2, step 3, because they're going to treat each face individually and do things in the order that it makes the most sense for that face. So, to use a cosmetology school student, you kind of got to know what you're getting into. Ideally, what I recommend to any young makeup artist that I meet that just came out of cosmetology school is I tell them, great, bust your butt in school, finish up, get the good grades, get the certification, get the license if that's what's required in the state that they're in, and then promptly forget all of it. Use it as the foundation and go out then and really teach yourself how to be creative. And that's the key. So do understand, and Roderick, I talk about it in those two videos, the key to working with any makeup artist, it's building a relationship. Please, gang, for any of you that have never worked with a makeup artist and think you want to, don't make the mistake the first time that you're working with a makeup artist, and I don't care if you're paying them or you're doing a trade, don't make the mistake of when the makeup artist comes in and opens up their kit and sets up and then looks at you and says, okay, what do you want me to do? Don't be that photographer that takes a step back and says, hey, you're the expert, go for it. I trust you, do your thing. Don't do that. Not only have you basically invited that makeup artist to fail, you have also removed your right to have any complaints about what the makeup artist does, because you basically dropped it like a hot potato and said, hey, your problem. I don't know what's going on. You have to be willing to live and die by your choices. So you may not know what is the right direction. You may not know exactly the right words to use or the right terms. It doesn't matter. Part of being a photographer who works with people and part of being a photographer who's going to collaborate with other artists is working through that communication process. So you've got to do your darndest to be able to communicate with people. One of the easiest things in today's world, Pinterest. Find pictures of makeup styles that you like. That way you can show it to a makeup artist, and the makeup artist can either say, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I can do that in a heartbeat, or like, good luck, there's no way we're doing that in 2 hours, whatever. But if you don't know all the right words and the terms, find something that you can use as a visual reference. You know, remember, we do work in a visual medium. So it's not as hard, and it doesn't have to be as hard as so many people make it out to be. Mike Miller says, I'm going to take group shots for a kids' dance studio in a few weeks. I have 1,000 questions about lights and composition, but do you have any suggestions on how to work with groups of kids? Well, the first suggestion, Mike, is Valium. For you, and or the kids, for that matter. Of course, that would probably be illegal and get you in a lot of trouble. But really the biggest thing is, number one, honestly, get lots and lots of rest the night before the shoot. Make sure that you literally do have kind of your mental Valium going on, and understand that the overwhelming majority of your task during that photo shoot is to entertain. The more you are entertaining those kids, the more you will have their attention, the more fun they will have, the more they will be willing to do the things that you ask of them to do. It's a psychology game, which puts the pressure on you to make sure that indeed you know your gear, you know your lighting. So arrive early. In fact, if necessary or if possible, try and go to that location or recreate that location, set up and test your lights in advance. Know the distances you're going to place things at. Know the heights you're going to place things at. Know how you're going to set everything up. So you walk in with a plan, not a plan that's some random idea in your head that you dreamed up, a plan that you know works. You know if you set your lights here, here, and there, that you're going to be shooting at f8, at ISO 100, etc., etc. Work that all out in advance. Set yourself up so that the day of the shoot, you are able to focus on the kids, not the gear. If you're focusing on the gear, you're dead in the water. That's literally the biggest thing that I will tell you. Since it's a dance studio, and I used to do this when I was younger and I left the newspaper business, one of the first clients that I picked up was a local dance studio. And so once a year I used to go in, I used to photograph all their kids. We did groups of all the different classes. And I've done several other dance schools, years after that. The best part of it is most of the people, the teachers, the instructors, or the owners of the dance schools, they are very OCD in particular about how they want their kids to look. So they're usually very involved with making sure that the groups are well posed, that the dance steps look good, etc. So don't assume, remember what happens when we assume, don't assume that will be the case. Make it a point to have a conversation in advance so that there's a clear expectation on your part and the part of the dance school owner or instructor that they are going to be available basically on set with you, observing and directing the kids. And that way, really all you're doing is being the cool guy with the camera, composing and shooting. Done. So believe me, that will make your life a whole lot simpler if you do that. Okay? All right, Rico says, when you painted your home studio floor gray, did you go immediately to glossy paint for its reflective qualities, or had you previously tested flats or semi-glosses to come to that decision? I ask because I will be painting my studio space soon, but my wife does not like glossy paint. Ooh, Rico, I'm sorry. I did not come to it via means of, well, actually, let me back up. I did not come to it via means of testing. The first studio that I was in that I did the gray floor thing, the floor was already gray when I got there. And indeed, when I got there, it was like a semi-gloss. It definitely was not matte, but it was like a semi-gloss. And the photographer who owned the studio, he just had the rooms gray, period. He didn't really use the floor to shoot on. That was something I started doing because it was a plywood floor. So it was all, like floorboard that was put down. I actually wound up kind of filling in all the cracks, sanding it down, and then really glossing the floor up over time. So technically, I guess I did do some testing. When I first kind of stumbled onto that concept, that floor was a semi-gloss, and it works. The bonus to doing the gloss is that you can get that reflective look. If you start to lower your camera angle where you're shooting lower to the ground and you're working on a gloss floor, that's when you're going to get that reflection, almost like that mirror type feel. And of course, if you're throwing colored gels on the background, that gray floor picks up that color as well. So yeah, you're going to have to negotiate with your wife a little bit. Honestly, Rico, what I would say for the sake of, trying to meet your wife in the middle and at least being able to go back to her later and say, hey, this isn't working, go with the semi-gloss first. Understand you're going to want to put a couple coats down, get it nice and thick. You want it smooth, okay? And I promise you the semi-gloss will work, but if you want that kind of reflective quality, then you're going to need to go to the gloss. So that's really going to be the big difference between the semi-gloss and the gloss, okay? The upside of it is if you guys move or you do something like that, you're not spending the kind of money that you would need to spend if you're going to like replace a whole floor or anything like that. You're just going to paint over it. So you could always, paint it a different color or even just put down inexpensive vinyl floor coloring over top of that and you'd be good to go. Okay. All right, I got one more here, and then we're going to call it a night, gang. Chris Dye wants to know, when you're doing outdoor portraits, is it all right to use only natural light and maybe an on-camera flash and reflector to fill? I did a shoot a week ago outside, and I found my lights currently are not bright enough to use during the golden hour as filler lights. So, for me, Chris, I don't do a lot of outdoor lighting. I mean, if you go through my portfolio of work, you'll see plenty of shots where I did outdoor lighting. But I am truly a keep it simple, stupid guy. You know, kiss it. So for me, I have no problem going out and shooting with the natural light, using reflectors, etc. The only thing that I would take exception to in your question here is I wouldn't use the built-in on-camera flash, like ever. I've got to be insanely desperate before I am putting that flash to use in any way, shape, or form. So to use an off-camera flash, you know, like a speed light, and to get it off camera, certainly that's an option. But I'm not a big fan of the on-camera flash thing. There are times where on-camera flash can be cool. I have the videos about doing glamour shots with on-camera flash and like the white background, which could actually be any color background. But for outdoors, the challenge with that is you've got to be really careful about balancing your ambient and that direct flash. So I would actually rather go with you know, natural light. You know, the key to a lot of this outdoor shooting, and it kind of gets lost in the video that I have. In fact, here, let me switch over and I'll show you the video I'm talking about here, because I do mention it in this video, but this is one of those things that as an educator, you learn along the way that sometimes your message doesn't get across as well as you hoped it did. This video right here, how to shoot great portraits in bright sunlight without reflectors or strobes, portrait photography. So the rub here is in this video, I don't actually shoot in bright sunlight. I avoid it like the plague. If I'm out in bright sunlight, I look for shade and I put the subject in shade. Worst case scenario, I'm going to turn the subjects back to the sun so that their face is in shade, and then I'll use a reflector to fill it. So, you know, I find that a lot of times part of the problem that we run into, that I find photographers running into with the idea of shooting outdoors, and do you need high-speed sync, or do you use a reflector, or can you have off-camera or on-camera flash, or how the heck do you light it, is for whatever reason they become mandatory in the location. Rarely is the exact location mandatory. Like, is there anything to prevent you from moving 25 feet away where there's a tree with some shade? Or to maybe moving around the corner? You know, there's always a bunch of different options how you can play with your background. And if the shot is such that a specific background is important to the shot, well then guys, you should be doing your research as to the appropriate time of day to be there, and that's when you schedule your shoot. So I'm sorry, but as someone who's done this for a lot of years, my opinion is more fool you if you've put yourself in a situation where you've got to do a shoot that has a very, very specific background and you're doing it at the wrong time of day. That's bad planning on your part. If it's simply a matter of, hey, we're shooting in this park and the only time they're available is 1 o'clock, well, you know, parks have trees, parks have walls. So with a little bit of creative thought process, you can cover that. And I've talked about before the apps that are available on the phones. My favorite one is called Light Track. It's Lightrac, Light Track. There's a bunch of them that are available. I've written about them in blog articles. They allow you to put any geographic location in, pick a time of day of the week. They'll show you where the sun rises in the sky, where the sun sets in the sky. You can pick any time of day. So let's say you're only able to shoot this at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You can dial in 1 o'clock and it'll show you exactly where the sun's going to be in relationship to your location. So you can know in advance, okay, this is where the sun's coming from. This is where I need to try and find a spot to put my model so that I have shade, etc. So, you know, I find that really more often than not, a little bit of planning solves all these problems that everybody, you know, seems to have with this outdoor lighting stuff. It's really not that difficult. Okay, so I mean, I hope that helps, and I assure you, as soon as my intern Morgan arrives here for the summer, which is in 2 weeks, We are actually going to be doing a whole bunch of outdoor shooting videos this summer to try and really break this stuff down a little bit more. And obviously, since I'm the one that keeps griping about the fact that you don't need high-speed sync nearly as much as people think they do, I'm going to go ahead and essentially break that down and prove it, because I want people to understand I love high-speed sync, especially like the Godox system in that. And you know, when you've got systems that you can build around, like Godox is putting out, and a lot of these other manufacturers, high-speed sync is a great feature to have if you really know how to use it, if you really know what it's for. But the worst part of it is most people I find that are trying to use it don't really need it, okay? So I've got one last question here from Mike. Follow up on the gray floor question. What's the best colors for the walls on a home studio? Go with gray as well, or white? If white, should it be as bright as possible? So Mike, if you've watched the video about my home studio, obviously I go with white walls. Whoops, I thought I was going to get back to my home page there. So sorry. I have white walls in my studio. The only exception to that would be if you're going to do the gray floor thing, it's really a good idea to have, like, so you've got two ends to the studio. If you're able to shoot at both ends, I would do the gray floor, and one end should be a gray wall, and then you don't need a seamless backdrop. You've got gray and gray. But otherwise, if you watch the video that's on my channel that has my studio, it's all white walls in the studio, and they're actually a semi-gloss white, so that they're nice and bright, and it's totally a pure white. Okay? All right, gang. Thank you for hanging out with me tonight and spending this Memorial Day with me here. So remember, please follow me on social media. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that thumbs up button. I do really apologize for all the chaos that took place in the chat before. It looks like we're going to need to deal with that so we can try and prevent that in the future. But hey, it's live, and that's what happens. So listen, it is time to wrap up for tonight. Get out there and put all this information to use, okay? So I really do. I appreciate you all for joining me. Please be sure to subscribe, comment, and whatever you do, gang, please remember these important words. Thanks for watching another live episode of TogChat. Now go pick up that camera and shoot something, because your best shot, it's your next shot. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep shooting. Adios.